Hey guys, welcome back to the next part of our series. Today we're going to continue with the head of our character. And as I mentioned in the other video, in the last video, this is one of my favorite parts for the whole character because we get to texture something that's organic and not a synthetic or, leather is organic, but you know what I mean. This is a living tissue that we need to texture and make sure it looks as good as possible. So I'm going to show you my progress or my process as to how I approach this thing. So first of all, I'm going to turn off the general wear that we have here. I'm going to create a new layer. Actually, we already had a layer, right? It's here on the bottom side. That's because I don't want any of this information to make me think that other colors are present when they're actually not. And I'm going to go all the way down here to the skin base. Now, as you can see here, this skin base has a little bit of a glow to it. It has a little bit of roughness, and I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn on the roughness, and I'm going to bring the roughness all the way up. I want this to be as matte as possible right now. Actually, no, let's give it a little bit of shine, but not that much. Probably something like that. A little bit more. Something like that. That seems a little bit more natural. And the way we're going to approach this is by following a process that people use a lot when they're painting like masks and prosthetics for movies. I call this the clown process because our character is going to look like a clown for a bit, but it's very important that you follow along as closely as possible to get the best possible result. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with a fill layer, and this fill layer is going to be red. So I'm going to select this. I'm not going to go pure red because, again, if we go to the extremes, we can't go any higher, and I don't want to do that. I want to keep a little bit of a margin to make sure that we can do modifications later down the line. So I'm going to go for like a darkish reddish tone. Something like this is good for me. And I'm going to call this warm areas. And we're going to paint with a black mask all the warm areas for our character. Now for this, symmetry is not really necessary. However, it could save a little bit of time, especially like for the ears and stuff. I'm going to keep it off just to keep it a little bit more naturality to it. And I'm going to go here and I'm going to grab my dots erased brush right here. I really like the dots brushes, both of them, because they give a very, very nice look to the whole thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make them really, really small. And I'm just going to go crazy all over the character, but not all over the character. This is where the important part comes into play. We need to I'm actually going to grab the dots, normal dots. There we go. Yeah, that's better. So I'm going to grab the normal dots and I'm going to go and I'm going to place the red color in all the areas that are usually warm. And these areas are places where there's a lot of blood flowing. So muscles, cartilage, like ears and a little bit of the folds, a little bit of the mouth, of course. Now, be mindful here. I'm trying to keep the brush in a very specific size. Like I don't want to go any lower with the mouse. Or actually, I don't want to go any higher with the mouse. I want to keep it really, really, really low. I think we're gonna benefit from symmetry. So let me go back here because otherwise it's gonna take a little bit too long. So what I'm gonna do is I am gonna turn on my symmetry plane. I'm gonna move it. It should be moved. I think we place 0 here now because that's the 0 of the character. So it should be. Yeah, that seems to be good. So I'm gonna go here into the options and I'm gonna turn off the show plane. So the symmetry is there, but we are not seeing the plane. There we go. So again, nose, every muscle that we have, ears are really important here. Mouth, the little muscles here under the mouth, a little bit on the chin. You usually want to have a little bit of this effect everywhere, but at the same time, you don't want to make sure that it looks super uniform. You want to give a little bit more prominence to the areas that I'm talking about, to the warm areas. So we get like this kind of like a T going on here on the front of the mouth. Lips, of course. Don't forget the neck. Neck has this like the sternocleidomastoideus. A little bit under the chin. A little bit there, even though we don't see it that much. And then all the way here in the back. You can see that I'm being very generous. It's really not a big deal how you distribute these things because we're going to be softening this layer quite a bit. Now here on the ear, I actually want to go quite high. I'm not sure why I have that little square there. There we go. For some reason we had that area there. Perfect. So back to this area right here. I'm gonna grab my dots again. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a dirt layer to all the thing to soften this up. I'm gonna add a generator. I'm gonna add a dirt layer. And I'm gonna invert the layer because as you can see, this one actually goes into the cavities and I don't want the cavities, I actually want the high points. So I'm gonna select invert and I'm gonna multiply this by the other one, see there? Now I'm gonna soften this up so that we get a little bit of the other areas. But now we get a nice distribution of red color all throughout our character. And this red color, we're gonna of course multiply. See how it gets a little bit darker? That's why we need to select a bright red and lower the opacity. And that, guys, is what's gonna give us a little bit of the variation on the skin tone. You can see everyone has a little bit of spots, like we're not perfectly made up all the time with perfect skin and no imperfections. This is a very nice way to do that. Now, however, the dots tend to be a little bit too sharp for my taste. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a filter here and I'm gonna add a blur filter. Now 0.5 is way too much, so I'm gonna do 0.1 to get the dots, but not as sharp as they were. There we go. So that's the general warm areas of the character. Now you feel this is a little bit too soft, we can increase this a little bit and we'll get a very nice texture all throughout the skin. And that's the first step. The second step is to do the cold areas. So I'm gonna do a fill layer again, turn everything off except for the color. And I'm gonna grab now a blue color. I sometimes like to grab a purplish color depending on the skin tone. So for this guy, I think a bluish, going a little bit into greenish color might actually be cool. So something like this. Let's try that. And I'm gonna do a multiply. You can see that, yeah, we get this nice turquoise color here. I'm gonna do a black layer as well, or black mask, sorry. And this one is going to be placed on the cavities. So every place that you find that there's a cavity, you're going to add that blue color. So here on the nose, the mouth counts as a cavity, a little dimple there, underneath the chin, here, inside the ears, a little bit there. The top side here tends to be quite cold as well. So I'm going to be a little bit generous here and there and add a little bit of blue color here on the underside of the element, like that. There we go. And now I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna go here, add a new generator. I'm gonna add a dirt color in this case. And in this case, we do wanna keep the dirt in place. So we're just gonna multiply this by the mask that we painted. Actually, no, I don't wanna multiply. I think I'm just gonna keep it like this. And I'm just gonna lower the opacity. Yeah, something like that works nice. And now, of course, we need to lower this quite a bit. But now you can see what's happening is the red and the blues are now combining and creating this sort of purplish looking tones here. If we go into the color map, you're gonna see it more clearly. Oh. There we go. So we get those nice looking tones there. They'll give my character a lot of variation that would be very difficult to get otherwise. So I'm probably gonna maybe not multiply. Let's keep it normal. Let's see. No, that's way too much. Let's try overlay. Sometimes again, playing around with the different tones gives us a nice looking. Like I do want a little bit of that blue. He's white, and white faces tend to be quite milky. You can see the veins and the arteries very easy. So having a little bit of that blue punching through, I think will go a long way. Now I think the red's a little bit too intense here. Let's lower it a little bit. There we go. And now we're going to go for the yellow. The yellow will give us the bony protrusions and the cartilage, the fat of the character. And it's actually very simple as well. I'm just going to go here into a fill layer, turn everything off, and we're going to grab a yellow. Well, I don't like the true yellow or pure yellow like this. That's horrible. So I'm going to grab like this mustard kind of color. There we go. I'm going to add a black mask. And for this one, I'm actually going to use a generator straight out of the box. I'm going to use the metal edgeware. Or we can also use the curvature as well, which should give us the high points there. So it's going to give us the ears, which is cartilage, the high points here. That one's good. However, I think metal edgeware works a little bit better. Yeah, because it gives us a little bit more room. So I'm going to decrease the contrast so that it's softer and decrease the wear level a little bit, something like that. And this one is going to go into linear Dutch because it's going to bring the bone. The bone is pushing the skin out, right? And this will allow me to make it seem that the areas where this yellow paint is are really thin because we have, again, things pushing against it. And of course, we're going to lower this quite a bit. This one is probably the one that gets the lowest, probably like at 5%, but you can see that it's there, it's visible. And this one as well, we need to blur it a little bit. So I'm going to add a filter here, and we're going to blur this guy. 0.2 should be fine. Whoop. There we go. So now with those three colors, we got a nice start for our character. However, we need to do a couple of extra layers, general layers, before we do the specific layers to give it a little bit more life. As you can see here, this looks like a wax character. It's very nice. I really like this effect where we get a little bit of that thing going on. I think I can actually, I would like to actually add a little bit more. So I'm going to use a paint layer below the blur to push the cheeks right here slightly higher up. Is that working? Yeah, it's working. There we go. So we leave it like that. That's way too much, of course. But with the 5%, that should look really, really nice. Now we need to give this character a little bit more life. And for that, we need to add a little bit of the cool, warm shadows that every character has. And for that, I am going to add one more layer here. And this is going to be a dark brownish layer like this, like kind of cherry color. Again, only color. And I'm going to add a black mask. I'm going to add a, what's it called? A fill layer here. I'm going to use the ambient occlusion to place this warm shadow everywhere in my character. Now, of course, this ambient occlusion is inverted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a filter. So right click, add filter. No, sorry, add levels. Because the levels has the invert option that we can change. And now we can push how much of that redness we want on our character. I'm going to change this to multiply as well. And of course, lower it a little bit because we don't want this to be super obvious. We could also use linear dodge, which is gonna make it brighter on those areas. I think this one works a little bit better, but I also like the darkness and the contrast of this thing. Now we can just push it a little bit. If this is way too dark, we can bring it up a little bit. There we go. See that? So that's gonna give me some really nice natural looking elements there. Now I'm just gonna lower this thing. And that gives us the triangle, like the dark areas that we usually see around the eyes. Again, if this is too much, we can either go to the levels and reduce the amount a little bit. I think that's a little bit better. Or change the color and stuff. That's again one of the strengths of Substance Painter, that you can do a lot of changes and modifications there really, really easily. Now for some reason, this thing changed here. We need to fix that. Well, let's not get distracted. Finally, and this is the final part for this initial video for this character, we need to give this character life. And for that, we're going to use something called subsurface scattering. If you've never heard the term before, this term refers to the ability or the property of the skin that allows it to reflect some of the light, but also transmit the light through it. So if you place your fingers behind a very bright lamp, you'll see this effect going on. It also happens with wax, with a lot of objects like liquids, like Jello and stuff. And it's a very nice effect that we want to mirror. And I'm going to show you two ways to do that really quick. The first one is to do a true subsurface scattering, and the second one is to do a fake subsurface scattering. So I'm going to start with the fake one, because even though I'm going to be using a true one later on, I really like the way the fake one makes it look. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a new color layer here. I'm going to make this color pure red. I'm going to grab this color, make it pure red like that. And I'm going to make a black mask. I'm going to use a fill layer. And now I'm going to use something called the thickness map. Now, the thickness map is a map that we created that tells us which areas of the character are thick and which areas are thin. And as you can see here, by doing this, we pretty much get what areas should be cartilage and which areas shouldn't be. I'm going to use a levels filter here. I'm going to invert this, and now see this. the mouth, the nose, the eyelids, the ears are really, really red. And we can control the amount of redness that we want with these little things right here. So I probably want something like this. Something like that's fine. I'm gonna change this to linear dodge so that it adds on top of the color, and then I'm gonna reduce this quite a bit. So I'm gonna leave it at probably about 30 or 25. And that, guys, as you can see, will give me a pretty cool looking subsurface scattering, but it's fake, it's painted on. Now we're gonna talk about the real subsurface scattering, but I think I do wanna give this a bit more overall kind of like a redness to it. I really think that the subsurface scattering is one of the most important parts of the whole process, because it gives the character life. It makes it look like there's blood running through the skin, and it really brings the character to life. So yeah. Now the true way to do it is the following. I'm gonna go all the way here to my shader settings, and I need to enable the subsurface scattering parameters. You can see that it's enabled right here. Scattering type is set to skin. Scale is set to 0.5. The color of the skin is a normal, like a pinkish color. And now what I need to do is I need to go to the shader here, or actually to the texture set settings here. And I need to add a channel here. I need to add a subsurface or a scattering channel right here. So now we have a scattering channel. I'm going to change this to RGB 32, no, actually that's fine, linear 8 is fine. I'm going to go here into the skin, I'm going to add a new fill layer, and you're going to see that we now have a scattering layer right here. So I'm going to turn all of this off and leave the scattering layer on, and I'm going to turn it on. And by turning the scattering mode on, we should be getting a little bit of that element. I think we can turn this. No, that's fine. So scattering is turned on. Let's see what, oh yeah, we need something else, because right now it might not look like it, because I'm pretty sure I'm still missing one thing that I need to turn on. Where is it? Scattering, yeah, that should be it. Let's place a black mask here, and now let's use a fill layer again to use my thickness map, and I'm gonna use a levels to invert that thickness map. Which one am I missing? Okay, there, activate subsurface scattering. So on the shader itself, on the display settings, we were missing the activate subsurface scattering, and you can see how the skin looks really, really nice, really scattery right now, like it's made out of wax. So that's the cool thing. Now we can lower this. Let's go back to like 0.5, I believe was the magic number, and let's go back to the map here that we have, and now we only get subsurface scattering on the high areas. See, like if we change this, we go from matte to getting a little bit of subsurface scattering. And again, subsurface has more prominence on the thin areas. So that's why it's very important to control it with this little thing right here. Now this will eventually be exported as a mask that we need to connect in the marmoset to get the desired result. But that to me looks really, really good. That looks like a realistic skin. So we're in a really good position now. In the next video, we're going to be talking about the micro details and the roughness of the skin, because that's going to play a very important role as well. So hang on tight, guys, and I'll see you back on the next video. Bye-bye.